Nigerian Medical Association NMA Ondo State chapter has donated medical consumables to Federal Medical Center for the treatment of survivors at the shootings at St. Francis Catholic Church, Ondo State, during the service on Sunday. On behalf of the association on Tuesday, the state chairperson of the association, Dr. Mrs. Stella Adegbenbe, said the donations became necessary to assist the hospital in treatment of the survivors who sustained varying degrees of injuries during the attack. She handed the medical consumables to the management of the Federal Medical Center, led by medical Dr. Ilyasu Ahmed. Adegbenbe thanked all who have made blood donations possible for saving the lives of the victims. She also called on federal government to pay special attention to security issues so the country can be safe again. In his address, the National Financial Secretary, NMA, Dr. Uche Ojima, who represented the president of the association, appreciated the medical doctors and healthcare workers in the hospital for their services to the victims when they were brought into the facility. In his response, medical director appreciated donors for their philanthropic gestures and extension of their love to the victims. Dr. Ahmed therefore appreciated all members of the staff and medical center for their dedication to duty and speedy response to the emergency.
The attack was an evil attack, very cruel, satanic. It still leaves sour taste in our mouth, and it's really, really, really very sad. Especially when you see all the victims. These people were unprovoked. The incident occurred. Our colleagues and other health workers and everybody working in the hospital in Owo, FMC Owo, and St. Louis Catholic Hospital Owo rose up to the occasion.
Since it has happened, all of us have been up and doing, including the federal government. The directive from Federal Ministry of Health is that we should not collect money from them, and people have been coming to donate, especially the Ondo State government. They brought consumables, and they've also encouraged people to donate. We made them to give us 70 units of blood, and the other volunteers have been coming to donate blood.
The Iselu of Iselu, Oba Akintade Akinyemi, has written to the president of the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, Reverend Shukbo Ayokunle, over the killing of many worshippers at the St. Francis Catholic Church, Owo, in Ondo State. The monarch, in the open letter addressed to the CAN president on Tuesday, advised that churches in the country should facilitate the deployment of closed-circuit television, Cctv, so as to constantly monitor movements into and out of worship centers to assist the church authorities raise alarm to security agents when the need arises. He said CAN should also mandate all churches in the country to purchase and use security gadgets to put a stop to gruesome killings in worship centers. He commiserated with Governor Rotimi Akeredolu and the Olowo of Owo, Oba Ajibade Badigeshi, the Christian community in Ondo State and Nigeria in general, as well as the families of the worshippers who were gruesomely murdered by the assailants. Analysts have called on the Nigerian government to pay more attention to the country's decaying security structure. Public affairs analyst Tochukwu Izukama condemns the killings that occurred in Owo on Sunday, June 5, where scores of people were declared dead in shootout, with many others battling for their lives in hospitals. Izukama bitterly laments the daring recklessness of the terrorists who carried out the massacre in a place of worship. It decries the declining state of Nigeria's security, pointing out that worship centers are fast becoming regular targets for terrorists. Gadi Efese, on this part, also said stiffer measures need to be taken to discourage nefarious acts such as this. He calls on the Nigerian government to ensure that the terrorists are brought to book. He also said it is now important for the government to focus on prioritization of Nigerian lives.
First and foremost, I want to condole the people of Ondo State, especially the indigenous of Owo, for the dastardly act, blood on the altar. Like I said earlier on today, even during the Civil War, like my father told me, that the place that you can hide, the safety nets, was the worship centers in those days. But today, we are not in the state of war, but you can see people going to the worship center to commit all manner of criminalities. And to say that in one swap you kill over about 50 people in a worship center goes to show that the country is gradually drifting into anarchy. That means the people were not captured. The church is in the center of the city, and they could do that and still escape. It shows that the security situation in the country is at a very sorry state.
They were in the church for a long time. It didn't happen in 5 minutes. Blowing up places, killing people, and then finally escaped through town into their hideout. Why were they not interrupted? Why were they not intercepted as they were running away, or even while the operation was going on? So the powers that be, the leadership of this country, owe us an explanation. They are yet to tell us the truth.
Senator Suleiman Hunkui has emerged Kaduna State governorship candidate for the New Niger People's Party (NNPP) through affirmation by 732 delegates. The NNPP candidates will now slug it out with Isa Mohammed Ashiru of People's Democratic Party (PDP), Senator Uba Sani of the All Progressive Congress (APC), and other governorship candidates from other political parties at the general elections in 2023. Hunkui represented Kaduna North Central District in the 8th National Assembly under the APC before he defected to PDP in 2019. The former lawmaker however dumped the PDP in February 2022 and joined the NNPP. In his acceptance speech, Senator Hunkui promised to deliver dividends of democracy to the people of Kaduna State if elected governor in the 2023 general election.
That should once more take its position and its own people should again hold their heads high and proud. Join me and our modest group to break the APC stranglehold. Join us to re-engineer a new modest social beginning and social order.
Welcome to the International Scene. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he was very happy Boris Johnson was the UK Prime Minister after he survived an attempt to oust him. Mr. Johnson won a confident vote despite a major revolt that saw 148 of his own Tory MPs vote to remove him. "I'm glad we haven't lost an important ally. This is great news," Mr. Zelensky said at an online event. Mr. Johnson has forged a close relationship with President Zelensky since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. He called Mr. Johnson a true friend of Ukraine and a concrete supporter in an interview at a virtual conference hosted by the Financial Times on Tuesday. The UK was among the first to provide weapons to support Ukraine's defense and, like its Western allies, has imposed sweeping sanctions on Russia's targets prosecuting the war. In April, Mr. Johnson pledged unwavering support on a visit to the capital, Kyiv, where he did an unannounced walkabout of the city with President Zelensky. Mr. Johnson has faced a backlash from MPs and the public after he was fined by police for breaking his own lockdown laws at a 2020 party in Downing Street, where the Prime Minister lives and works. Some conservative MPs have cited the war in Ukraine as a reason not to oust Mr. Johnson from office and the confidence vote in Parliament on Monday. Rallying his MPs ahead of the vote, Mr. Johnson said it was the wrong time for unforced domestic political drama when Ukraine was fighting Russian President Vladimir Putin's forces. Mr. Johnson won the backing of 59% of his MPs, describing the result as extremely good, positive, conclusive, and insisting his leadership was now secure. Former Afghan President Ashraf Ghani almost certainly did not flee Kabul with millions of dollars that disappeared during the Taliban's military takeover of the capital city, according to a U.S. government watchdog's interim report published. The Special Inspector General for Afghanistan's reconstruction in its interim report said that $5 billion went missing from the presidential palace and tens of millions of dollars were taken from the vault at the National Directorate of Security. It was not clear where the money came from or what it was for, but it was supposedly divided by members of the Presidential Protective Service after the helicopters departed, but before the Taliban captured the palace, it said. The report said there appears to have been an ample opportunity and effort to plan the Afghan government coffers. But, the watchdog added, it does not have sufficient evidence to determine with certainty whether hundreds of millions of dollars were removed from the country by Afghan officials as the government collapsed, or whether any stolen money was provided by the United States. Since the Afghan government's records and surveillance videos are under Taliban control, it might be difficult to find out the culprits behind the loot of state coffers. Ghani was accused of fleeing with $169 million in Afghan government's money. He now lives in the United Arab Emirates. In subsequent days, multiple reports, first circulated by the Russian embassy in Kabul, suggested that Ghani and other officials took up to $169 million in Afghan government money with them. And still on news out of Nigeria, the United States-backed Syrian Democratic Forces have said that they will turn to Syrian government for support if Turkey decides to launch a new military operation against them in northern Syria. The Kurdish-led SDF said after a meeting of its command on Tuesday that its priority is not only to reduce tension near the border with Turkey, but also prepare for a long fight if Ankara carries out its threat. The SDF is largely made up of the YPG, which is the Syrian branch of the PKK, a group in Turkey, the European Union and the US consider a terrorist organization. The meeting confirmed the readiness of SDF forces to coordinate with forces of Damascus government to confront any possible Turkish incursion and to protect Syrian territories against occupation, the SDF statement said. The SDF had previously been considered part of the wider Syrian opposition to President Bashar al-Assad, but has grown closer to Damascus in recent years, particularly following the spread of Turkish military forces along with their allies in the Syrian opposition. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has repeatedly said over the past few weeks that he is planning a major military operation to create a 30-kilometer deep buffer zone inside Syria along Turkey's border. The proposed military incursion would be the fourth major Turkish operation since 2016, with previous campaigns giving Turkey control of territory from the SDF and ISIL in different areas along its border. Russia and Syrian government forces appear to be boosting their presence in northern Syria after Moscow warned during the weekend against military escalation in Syria ahead of talks between Turkey and Russia scheduled for Wednesday in Ankara. And finally, on news out of Nigeria, anger is spreading in the Middle East over disparaging comments made by an official of India's ruling party about the Prophet Muhammad, with various countries summoning New Delhi's envoy and demanding a public apology. The United Arab Emirates, a close India ally, became the latest Gulf state to voice its condemnation of the remarks made last week by Nobul Sharma and Navi Jindal, two members of India Prime Minister Narendra Modi Bharatiya Janata Party. The right-wing party took no action against Sharma and Jindal until Sunday, when a chorus of diplomatic outrage began, with Qatar and Kuwait summoning their India ambassadors to protest. Shortly after, the BJP suspended Sharma and expelled Jindal and issued a rare statement saying it strongly denounces insult of any religious personality. The UAE's foreign ministry on Monday said the BJP officials' comments were contrary to moral and humanitarian values and principles. The ministry underlined the need for respecting religious symbols and countering hate speech, state news agency WAM reported. Earlier, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan and other Muslim-majority countries in and outside the Gulf region condemned the comments by the BJP members. Qatar demanded a public apology from New Delhi for the comments as India's Vice President Venkaiah Naidu visited the gas-rich nation in a bid to bolster trade. And that's all on News Out of Nigeria.